Hi,
Hello, everybody.
hello everybody. Good to see you.
We don't see them, so good to have you here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some of you. Uh, my name is Maciek. I'm application engineer at Optocore, and yeah, next to me is David.
My name is David Somlo. I'm the sales distribution manager, and we will have a friendly meeting to chat about our possibilities, our things to show. Of course, first of all, I would like to promise you that we will not talk about any politics, first of all, any diseases and viruses, second of all, and it will not take long. We are planning to have it less than 1 hour. Of course, these are promises, and politics are good, politicians are good in it, but we can go further. Our goal to meet you guys and to have this Zoom meeting is to explain the possibilities which can be done, which you have from the conjunction of our friendship and cooperation with Digico. So connecting both Digico and Optocore, you can see what we would like to explain you what you can do from this mixture. And we will be we are we will be three of us, but this is in the future. However, Maciek will let you know about the details of the meeting.
Yes. Um, as you can see, I assume that a lot of you know already Zoom quite well because we've been on Zoom for years. Well, for a year now. And uh, hopefully we're gonna finish that, but well, we will see when this happens. Um, on down on the screen, you can see the chat. You can see the Q&A. If you want to say hello, just use chat. If you want to uh, ask question, then use Q&A. Uh, we will start with us talking. We will discuss a bit of history of our cooperation, and then we're going to talk about the solutions that we offer, both uh, Digico, Optocore, and all together. Finally, we will do Q&A session. So just feel free to leave your question, and this will be answered unless it's, well, not appropriate to answer. But I assume we will have some fun.
For sure.
Oh, sorry. One more last thing. We've got the survey. So once we're done here, please stay with us for just a few questions.
However, first, before we finish, let's welcome our big friend from Digico, Dave Bigg, who is the product specialist, and most of you should know him from his supporting and from his technical knowledge. He is one of our best friends from the engineering side, and also in the R&D and support for Digico. Hi, Dave.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me. Good
Good
to
to
see
see
you.
you. And I'm really glad that you find the time for us. First of all, I would like to just quickly start doing some introduction about why we have met, like why Digico and Optocore have met some time ago, because these are those reasons are, I think, the most important for you, and will explain you why the technology in our cooperation just developed. So, Dave, from your side, what was the first argument which is the most important, if you could say yes?
Well, I think it's the advent of digital technology. When we started doing digital consoles as Digico, anyway, back in 2002, there were limited connectivity solutions. Most of our consoles at that point, well, and still were, based up on MADI. So we were obviously on the lookout for a solution that would work in every location. And while MADI is a great product, it has limitations in terms of distance. And in a stadium, 100 meters sometimes just isn't quite long enough for your multi-core. So obviously we need to find a solution. Optocore had a ready-made solution that we could work with you and implement in the consoles, and that's got us where we are today.
Yeah, I think also you already met, I think, the most important arguments, reasons why we started to cooperate. That was a little bit before I joined Optocore. However, I will tell about it a little bit later. But yes, the first main I don't know, let's say solution is the distance, which we solve. We love MADI as well, so MADI is a standard still, and it's we are good in it, really good in it. But about this also we will mention on the end of the meeting. The flexibility you mentioned, so possibilities of connection, conversion, and etc. Network,
yep,
same. I also I had on mind also on that time when we have met. That was quite a long time ago. The redundancy on our market was really something luxury. Now it's like it's a normal stuff. However, the redundancy also came with this from the beginning. Yes.
I think yeah. When people first started with digital consoles and digital systems, there was a little bit of mistrust in terms of how reliable it could be. Whereas in fact, it was a lot more reliable than people thought. So redundancy was a watchword in, we've thought about all the things that can go wrong, and here are the solutions to stop. If something does go wrong, this is the way we would circumvent around it and give you the robust solution.
Exactly. For sure, it's also the matter of connection and power amplifying and etc. Yeah. However, the resilience is also quite important here, and the medium which we give. So the fiber gives a level up of having the trust in the systems and the stability of the networks, I think.
I think also the fiber, although it's not part of the hardware itself, is also an education, because people think of fiber as a very fragile device, which it is. But when you deploy it correctly with the correct cabling and the correct connectors, then actually what you have is a really robust system that will take a lot of punishment.
Okay, yes, that's true. So let's mention something about some small things and some details about the history, how we met, when we started, and etc. Maciek, can you, because you are much more longer than me in the company, so you could just start to just describe the guys when we have started.
Yeah, we have started when I was a kid. And probably all of us were quite young at the time. We started in 1993 when our CEO, Mark Brunke, he patented the fiber technology and to transport, of course, audio. You can imagine how new and how unusual it was at the time. But here we're talking really about those two guys who met at some point and who shared the technology. So on the left corner, you've got Mark Brunke from Optocore, and on the right one, you've got John Stadius. Those are two brilliant engineers, and at some point, they just crossed their minds to create something really, really interesting. Yeah, well, the first products that came from us, I'm sorry for the picture quality, but it is 1996. We didn't have iPhones with our cameras at the time, so we still have some of those products on shelves, I believe. But this is the first 1996. And how was it, Dave, with Digico at the time?
Well, in 1996, Digico didn't exist, although its forebear Soundtracks very much did. I mean, around about 1996, Soundtracks actually released their first digital console, which was the Virtua. Lovely picture, you've got it on screen there, which was a post-production console for the studio and quite groundbreaking at the time. So
awesome.
yeah,
you could possibly put it on Star Trek movie as a controller for some kind of spaceship.
I mean, it was a great console, it really was. And that led on to, in 1999, our first 96K console, which was DPC2. But all of these were connected via MADI. But Digico wasn't itself formed until 2002, when obviously we did the legendary D5, which was groundbreaking in what it could do. But when we launched it and we started beta testing it, that was connected to all its data racks via MADI. So as we mentioned earlier, we were looking for I think a more futuristic solution than MADI. MADI's great, it does the job brilliantly well, but what we needed was the network solution and the ability, redundancy, and the ability to connect more stuff.
What happened then? I believe this was the breaking point between Optocore and Digico.
Yes, as I understand it, I've checked this from the powers that know, is we were out beta testing the D5 on a Rod Stewart tour. And there was a conversation had while one of the shop shows happened in Berlin between our guys there and Mark. And that led to the introduction between the two companies. And then between 2002 and 2003, we worked together to develop the system into the D5. And in 2003, we managed to launch the Optocore system on the D5 console. And at that point, that was 2 consoles, up to 4 racks. It was groundbreaking at the time. It was 224 inputs, 224 outputs with a front of house and monitor system.
Yeah, we know some consoles that are doing this now, and they're happy that they are doing this, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, at the time it was groundbreaking. If you consider going back to our analog counterparts at the time, where your average console was still 52 inputs into 16 buses. The D5 was 168 inputs into 32 buses, which is a big jump in processing power.
Okay, yeah. From our point of view, there was another quite interesting milestone, and this was 2004, when we delivered system together with Soundtracks. At that point, Digico was Digico already existing?
Yeah, so in 2004, obviously Digico existed, but Digico and Soundtracks still coexist. In fact, Soundtracks as a company still exists. We still do build the occasional product under the Soundtracks brand. But Soundtracks is very much the post-production side of the company and the studio side of the company.
You mentioned it's Digico is the digital part of Soundtracks.
Not at all. Soundtracks stopped building digital consoles in the end of the 90s. So Soundtracks basically invented the Digico technology that we now base our products or place the products on. John Stadius, as you said, has worked for Soundtracks pretty much all of his life and its various forms. So no, the Digico is very much a continuation of Soundtracks, okay, but based on the live side of it rather than the post-production side.
Okay.
Going back to my point with this milestone, this is the system that we did for Berlin Olympic Stadium, and yeah, the interesting part was that this gave us a kind of preview of what is going to happen in future. This was 2005 or 2004, I'm not really sure about that. But this was the first system that allowed Digico Soundtracks, in general, digital console, to control Optocore mic preamps.
Yeah.
So for us, it was quite a big thing. As far as I know, when I started working for Optocore, this system was still working, and it's been working for quite a while. Now I think they upgraded finally, but still they are Digico users.
Yeah, I think it's the first time where you could see the true power of integrating both our company's products as one solution.
Yes, and then we had some more innovations, correct?
Yes, yeah. So D5 obviously was 2002, and then you fast forward to 2007, where we launched the SD7, which was again the first iteration of the stealth processing engine, and obviously again a very large increase in channel count. And again, all of our SD products were launched being Optocore compatible, and they still are to this day.
I remember the launch of the SD7 on the Tower Bridge.
Yes, it was quite special for those who were there. And then it's sitting in a box in Plaza on the first day, and no one actually believing it working. So on the second day, we had an engineer sitting inside the box mixing live multi-tracks to prove to everyone that it wasn't just a concept with flashing lights on it, that it was a truly working console and was ready to be used.
Yeah, and then you did a lot of SD consoles. All of them are optional Optocore.
Yeah, every console we make now always has Optocore fitted as an option. Obviously, things like the SD7 and the SD5 we ship very few of without Optocore fitted, just because of the channel count. But obviously, the smaller consoles, they don't always go with it fitted, but a lot of them do.
And now you've got Quantum 228. 228 is it?
226. Sorry, 225. Yeah. So the latest iteration of our console range is the Quantum series that started with the Quantum 7 back in 2018. Last year we did the Quantum 338, which is to my right, and the Quantum 5 upgrade for the existing SD5. And obviously last Friday, we officially launched the Quantum 225, which is over my other shoulder, which is nice not to have to hide it on every Zoom call now.
Congratulations on that. And we hope it's going to be very successful.
Right.
Yeah, during the time also, when you started going SD7, doing a lot of consoles with Optocore, sometimes without Optocore, our paths were a bit crossing. We did a lot of really nice, interesting systems together, mainly thanks to our customers worldwide.
Yes,
I think London was one of the most impressive ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, London was the first Olympic Games that was purely controlled by Digico consoles at the front end. But obviously, if you know the system well enough, it was a very large mixture of Optocore systems and our systems working in harmony to deliver complete redundancy. So, the Olympics is the most watched television program in the Olympics opening ceremony is the most watched television program on the entire planet. So, from a production point of view, they design it to rule out any possible failures. If something can be made redundant, it is.
Yeah, well, they were using multiple rings of Optocore, all of them redundant, and some of Optocore was redundant to another Optocore.
Yes, that's pretty much the way it works out. Is every signal is duplicated. So if you want to take the podium they do all the announcements from, that has two microphones. Both those microphones get split and go down two independent line systems. Those two line systems end up at the two independent consoles you can see there. They're then mixed in a redundant way and then sent down two independent line systems to the broadcast truck. So the one place that it all comes together is at the broadcast truck.
Yeah, that's always a great situation.
I just want to mention one thing that is amazing, that on what we had at the beginning mentioned, that we started, let's say, from the Rod Stewart tour, when Mark have met the guys from Digico, and also we mentioned the second thing as the Olympics game, that both of those, let's say, I don't know, institutions, shows, guys, they are still with us. So this is something what says about the I don't know, the trust and the resilience. That, however, I just want to say, sorry, Maciek, that I interrupted you. Just continue.
You can always interrupt.
Yes, I like
We're having a nice chat here.
I think the other thing that demonstrates is the scalability of both the systems. So obviously, when we first started back in 2002, most of our systems would have been, 50, 60 inputs roundabout, because that's what people were used to working to. Maybe some of the bigger shows getting on to 70 or 80 inputs. That picture we're looking at there, those SD7s were dealing with nearly 200 inputs. And the systems haven't really changed that much over the time. We've just managed to improve them and scale them so that you can work from the bigger show to the smaller show using the same equipment.
Yeah, for that, this is also quite future-proof for us, because regarding the bandwidth of the light and the fiber networks, we will be always ready to get more data on board. So
yeah,
bandwidth will be never, for you as well and for us, will be never the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. What also our companies have in common is that we keep on developing our products and we keep on doing new things. As we are talking about history, couple of years ago, we've released new products like Festival Box, which has been used in touring, which has been used also in installations sometimes. Later on, we're gonna discuss what those new products and new approaches add to the Digico world. But just to show you a couple of examples, another great customer of both of us, and they keep on challenging us for years. This has been a really great journey with Coldplay. And they've been using also our new products like Festival Box, like Autorouter. And most recently, Autorouter has been really successful for installations like Royal Albert Hall, which you can see here on the picture.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the installation at the Albert Hall was made much simpler by the use of the Autorouter.
Yes, we will get to the details, not necessarily of this particular project, but to the details of how it all works. And this brings us to another part of this presentation or this meeting, which is really discussing how it works. Probably half of people who are watching this, they already have Digico or have Digico with Optocore or have been using Optocore in some ways. But we're just gonna try to give you examples of how it's all built and how the cooperation works. Dave, this is a bit of your part because what we give to Digico is this OEM style of work. And could you just tell us a little bit how it works with Digico, how the ring works for you?
Yeah, so certainly. So while we take your coding and your base firmware, what we do is we implement our own control systems on top of it to make it work in the way we want it to interact with our consoles. So in a Digico Optocore loop, you can connect up to 14 I/O devices and up to 5 redundant pairs of engines. So that could be 5 SD7s, it could be 10 SD10s set up as redundant groups, or any combination of those consoles. And all of the consoles have access to all of the inputs from the rack, and then you can allocate in channels with counts of 8 output cards from each rack to each console, up until you hit a limit of 504 channels per loop at either 48K or 96K.
Yeah, what we really like about this approach is that you just hit one button and then everything is automatically discovered, and then you just patch your channels. You see all of the stage boxes, you see all of the consoles in one loop. This is
when we designed this, we were very much of the opinion that we didn't want to have one master console that was in charge of everything. Every console should be equal, and therefore every console you should be able to perform every task from every console, and the engineers can choose how they configure their system and who can have access to what. That was really important to us, to give the engineers the flexibility.
Yeah, on the other hand, we've got Optocore, and Optocore, we build our own devices. We of course give technology to our company, to other companies, but we also build our own devices, and you can build a loop out of Optocore devices. We've got a bit different approach than Digico. While in Digico you hit one button, we call it standalone Optocore network. You can just do anything you want. You can enable ports, disable ports. You can program devices however you want. And a lot of customers, what they're doing, they're just connecting Optocore loop with Digico using MADI or AECBU. On this example here, you've got MADI. And yeah, usually you use it just to have your house system, maybe your PA drive, or some more distribution for recording. When you want to have more control, maybe sometimes you split those two, and you use those two situations. What is quite unique also about Digico and SD7 is that you can do second loop, correct, Dave?
Correct, yeah. So we got to the point, it's a strange thing to say, that 504 channels on an optical loop wasn't enough. And this really came into its own when people started recording high channel counts. Because if you've got 128 input from stage and you want to record that and do virtual sound checks shared between the two consoles, well, that instantly becomes 256 channels of recording signal on top of your stage rack. So people were filling their loop very, very quickly. So as part of the technology that you guys provided, we knew we could do a second loop. So we worked with you to introduce that. So that allows us to do another 14 IO. So that gives us 28 IO devices in total, with up to 18 engines in total across the two loops. So assuming that one console is sharing between the loops, but you could have one SD7 on two loops, and then you could have 8 SD10s on one loop and 8 SD10s on the other loop, with the SD7 acting as the bridge between the two loops, and that all works. Or you could have all the consoles on both loops, providing they've got the connections. But it just gave us more IO locations, more channel count.
And then Quantum 7 brings it even higher.
Yes, well, when you got that system, the challenge was that the console couldn't mix that number of channels, and that was the evolution to Quantum 7, is where people were reaching the limits of what we could do with an SD7. So what we had to do in order to get further is to build an engine that could just mix more channels and give the users more buses.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm just wondering right now, when you're talking about that, is there any other console that can go even near to what you can do?
I think, well, it depends. In live world, there are people that can get very close to what we do. In broadcast world, it's a whole different ball game, because they can do all sorts of clever things. But then we're talking a different level of money investment to buy the kit. But in live world, I still believe that in terms of the overall package, we deliver the most flexibility and maximum channel count.
Sure. Yeah, when I started working for Optocore, this was 10 years ago, we had a situation where our products were ready to connect to Digico. Digico was ready to connect with our products, and we just had to finalize it. And we did finalize it in 2004, which led to this combined ring. What you can do right now, and what a lot of people are doing, they can just grab one box from Optocore, connect it to Digico loop, and then you see it immediately. It is displayed in the console.
Yeah. I mean, specifically that came into its own with the DD4MR, where people wanting to record and do virtual sound check between two consoles. So we implemented it, and that allowed it to work. It was good fun doing it.
Yeah, I hear some baby in the background. That's Dave. Okay, Dave is out for a minute. Anyway, these are the joys of home, working from home.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Going back to the topic, as you said, DD4MR, DD2FR, so our MADI products, those has been really successful with us. We keep on receiving a lot of orders just for a single box or two boxes, and we know exactly where it goes. We know that they want to connect it to Digico loop.
Yeah, I think, and the benefit of things like the X6R were really came into their own, where people just needed a small amount of IO in a single location and didn't want to put a whole one of our racks in such space. So in a single rack space, they could get just those extra 8 inputs or 16 inputs where they needed them.
Yeah, what we need to add is X6R. This is a device with mic preamps, and those mic preamps are natively controlled from Digico desk. So this is another thing that bring us really close together. You don't have to scratch your heads how to control your mic preamps. You can just see it as it was SD rack.
But I think the same is with the DD32, that using the box of one U box, you can still keep your slot in the SD rack for the analog in I/O, and keeping with outsourcing, let's say, in the one loop the AS IOs as well in quite multiple IOs, of course.
Yeah, so all three options are quite widely used, either in touring or in installations, or you can do a mixture. So have one box from Digico, from Optocore in Digico loop, and then connect it to standalone Optocore network, or have something like this, everything in one loop. So this cooperation brought plenty of options for both of our companies and really for our customers in the end.
Yeah, it just added what we've always attempted to, added more flexibility to the system and gave our users the ability to be more creative and just do what they needed to do.
Yeah, the next step of this cooperation, because we've been thinking what we could do to make it even simpler, and what is the challenging bit of this ring topology. It turns out that ring topology is amazing for live, because you just make a loop, you've got stage left, stage right, front of house, monitor position, everything in loop, great. But what happens when you want to do a theater, the installation, and you have a couple of mixing positions or some mobile stage boxes, and we've been scratching our heads how to do it, not to break the loop every time you want to add something to the loop, or you want to remove, for example, mobile stage box. And here is where our auto router came into place. Yeah, so auto router, what it does, once you disconnect one of the devices, it will automatically discover that this device is disconnected and will connect all remaining devices with each other. So you will end up always with closed loop. Before auto router, how your customers were doing that, Dave?
Very difficult, with great difficulty. To be fair, we were quite often seeing, certainly in the install world, building Optocore patch base, and then we were just using LC links to close the loops when devices weren't enabled, or just having very careful about how they route stuff on and just left it connected and turned on the whole time. So the auto router did solve a lot of challenges we were occurring in installations.
Yeah, we can see it right now. That's well, in Liaison there is not much happening at this moment in installation, and the whole market moved to installation a little bit, and yeah, we can see that auto router has become a really popular one, and it just makes things much more simple.
Yeah.
Also, when you think about investment, it's a no-brainer, because otherwise you would have to do, as you said, the optical patch bay, and if you want to do it properly, you have to use proper connectors. Then you end up with really expensive solution.
Yes.
One last solution we have for you today is a festival box. We've been asked multiple times, and probably Digico has been asked multiple times, what to do with network and what to do to have the network on the same cable, or how to make the cabling easier, simpler. We came out with Festival Box 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
The name might be a little bit misleading, because you might think, I don't do festivals, so I don't need Festival Box. And that's not really the point. The point of Festival Box is to reduce your cabling. So if you consider having independent Digico loop, independent Optocore loop, and some network on top of that, maybe for some other protocols or just for control, then you would need to run 6 cables. If those devices are in the same location, and in most cases they are in the same location, then why not reducing the number of cables between the devices? And this is what exactly Festival Box is doing.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen great implementations of this and touring where people are running multiple festival boxes in different locations. Not only are they sending the Optocore loop down the festival box, they're sending, as you said, their Ethernet control. They're also sending MADI streams down there, but they're just trying to get it all down one set of cables around the building rather than having to run multiple. And it works. It's a really good, neat solution.
Yes, it is. I can confirm. Okay, it's time right now to well, we've been thinking how to structure that, and we've decided to just give you one answer from each of us to the question, how does the corporation benefit my company? So in our case, it's Optocore. In case of Dave, this is Digico. We've already touched that point a little bit in the beginning, but just to summarize, Dave?
Yeah, I think for us, what it allows us to deliver is a network solution that we have complete control over. We don't require any third-party equipment. We can test it. We know exactly what it can do, and we can build any system that anyone's going to deploy in the field. So we know that it's going to work. And that for us is a great benefit in terms of customer support and giving our clients confidence that what they're suggesting will actually work.
Yeah, from my point of view, I totally agree with you that the networking, but with the networking is connected something else. For me, for example, it's from my side, it's one of the best things is that we earned such a great business partner, and the friendship lasts for so long, and this is something really what you cannot find on the market. And also it influences our private lives because we know each other in both companies quite well. So that for me is also influencing the business quite a lot, because everyone knows that Digico, and I hope we do have also the same thing, that we are quite communicative guys, and you can always talk with us about solutions and networks. One more thing which I need to mention is that thanks to Digico, Optocore became more popular. This is also something what Digico brought us as in the package. What instead what we gave you and what you give us. This is for us very important.
Put it a bit differently. I think a lot of people are using Optocore. They don't even know that they're using Optocore. But once they learn, they just know it's there, it's robust, it works. This is the biggest thing for me. When I go to customer and he has Digico and I go to show him some Optocore, then I know that on both ends, Digico side and Optocore side, everything is going to work. And this confidence, this is something important for me.
Yeah, and also because of Digico, which became one of the main players on Digital market, because now Digico is I don't want to say it because we need to be also we are cooperating with other guys, but Digico is now top of the top, and that's the
I just checked, some of them are watching us.
So you are among the best now in the world, and we are very happy about that. And because of that, you bring us more proofs that our systems are really resilient, really real. So this is something for us.
Right, yeah. I mean, we also get the point with the same network where, because you build your own products and your own system lines, we know that when we say someone we're using Optocore, we know you're not just something we're putting in the console. You test and you use your own systems. You sell them as independent. Therefore, we know it's a good, robust system. It's going to work. It's going to deliver what people want it to do. We just happen to implement it on our consoles, and it helps us out massively.
Yeah, this is the good connection, because you do specialize in processing. This is your domain, and this is really complicated. We are really specialized in transport, and we are not doing processing. So
Yeah.
so the connection is really good, I think, and it's a match for me.
Okay, we've got now one more thing for you. Right,
Yeah,
David?
we just want to mention, by the way, something.
By the way.
Uh, when we was talking before about the loop and what are the possibilities, most of the Digico users, which I can see it's the most of the guys which connected us here today, they know through our devices the digital series, the DD series, the DD4MR and the DD2FR, our two great devices. And I have two news for you. The first news is that we developed our M series, which is the MADI series. And we mentioned that the MADI is still going okay and it's really stable and we love it. So the MADI replaced the DD series with all the features which DD series had. However, Maciek will describe you the details. And what is important before, for the same price, you have more connections and much newer device.
Okay, a little bit of details from me. DD2FR, DD4M are quite well-known devices. DD2, it has two fiber MADI ports, and now the next generation of this device would be M8, which has four MADI ports. So you can obviously see, if you can count, that there are two more MADI ports available. What happens when you connect it with Digico? When you connect it with Digico, it still behaves as DD2 or DD4. So you don't need to run any software upgrades, anything like that. You just plug the device in and you can still use the same channel count as in DD2 and DD4. What is advantage of this solution is that you can align audio channels however you want between those four MADI ports. This means you can do 16 channels on each port in 96K, and then you can use all four of them, or you can use just two of them with full channel capacity. Similar situation with DD4. Again, you've got two MADI ports on DD4MR, and now it's being replaced with M8 BNC version. Again, with four MADI ports, so two more additional. But what we also have in our portfolio right now and in M series is M12. M12 gives you much more connectivity because it's 8 MADI port device. And you can mix those ports however you want. Still, M12 is also pretending right now to be DD2 or DD4, but yeah, you can decide which ports you're using, which ports you're not using. That means that in one device you can use both fiber MADI and BNC MADI. There was something else.
Yeah, and that's frankly saying that you can have in one U2 devices, so DD2 and DD4 in one U.
Oh yeah, there was something else. This is especially interesting for rental companies because in one situation you can use it together with Digico in one loop, and this would pretend to be DD2, DD4, but you can remove it from the loop and you can use it as standalone MADI router with full capacity, so 512 by 512 channels.
Yeah, controllable by channel. It's not streams. With all you get with the device, the Optocore. So Optocore allows you to control not only MADI streams, but each of the channels as well.
Correct. And Dave, for you, this is not a big surprise because you've tested the boxes.
Yes, I have. Just go back to how we did for our cooperation. Is there any changes you make with us? We have to make sure that it works with our loop and I use it. Again, it just becomes a plug and play device. So yeah, so when you connect it onto an optical, the M8 or an M12 to our optical loop, it just appears in the console currently as a DD4MR, and you can choose, depending on how you configure it in the optical software, which channels you get off which stream. It just works as you would expect it to. From our side, the console software, there's no change.
Yeah, this is quite new for everybody. We haven't released that officially yet. So all of the participants of this meeting, you're the first one who know.
Yeah, it's just the as we said earlier, it's the evolution of the product. Everything has to grow and evolve to meet the new expectations of what people need, and the M series is just that part.
Exactly. I will drink for that.
Later.
Okay, so we've done this. We've introduced the new level of cooperation. I'm quite sure there will be bright future, and there will be some news eventually. Let's now go to Q&A. As I mentioned in the beginning, we've got this Q&A section here on Zoom where you can ask us questions. And this is quite a unique situation because usually you either go to Optocore or you go to Digico. Now you can ask questions which are common for both of us. Let me just moderate this a little bit. Buenos dias. Felipe, hello again. Yeah, Krzysztof, I can imagine designing installations without autorouter. Of course. Yeah, and here's the comment from Josh that he cannot imagine, or no, sorry, he have clients with for redundant autorouter. This is one thing that we haven't mentioned, and a lot of people were asking about that because autorouter at some point might become single point of failure. We've decided to create a solution for that, and right now you can order also a bundle for redundant autorouter where there is second device just mirroring what the first one is doing, and then we do optical split to reach both of them. So this is already available. Okay, we're waiting for your questions. And
you'll find one eventually. So we must have something someone wants to ask.
Okay, now I got Matt. With the M series, can you use MIDI USB to change programming? Idea being 2x playback computers attached via MADI at 48K to M series. Use the SRC boards in the M series to get in onto a 96K optical Digico loop. Ability to switch patch from one computer to the other. And Dave, I think this is something what we've already did for Coldplay, right?
Well, no, I think this is two things.
Something similar.
The Coldplay solution you implemented, sorry, allowed our change in audio mastership to change the routing on the M12, basically. So what we were doing was switching from one set of MADI inputs to the other set, so it would follow our audio master system. So what they were doing on the Coldplay system was they took MADI in and out of each engine into the M12, and the audio master switch on the engine would change the programming in the M12 to route the correct audio to the correct engines to follow our audio mastership, which was very useful for them. I think what
in this case, there is nothing about engine, but the principle would be very similar.
So instead of using MADI, what we're using is GPI signals. So you can send the GPI signal into the M12 or the M8, and it will change its routing to the other ports accordingly. And that's in its redundant setting.
Yeah, let me just answer this. Both options are possible and available right now because we've already implemented that. Okay, is it possible to use an Optocore unit to send video signal from stage to the front of house SD7 monitor screen? No. I was never sure how you do it, because you've got the screen on SD7.
We do, yeah. We actually encode the video signal into 8 audio channels, and that's how we get it from one end to the other. So very much how you can encode the Ethernet signal in there if you want to. We just use 4 audio channels and encode the video stream. So I don't know a way of getting device. The only way you can send video I know of between optical devices on the loop is actually using 2 SD7s, which if people want to use that to send a video around, I'm fine with that.
We have to say now that there is an option to send SDI video between 2 positions, and the solution would come from Broman. Broman is a sister company of Optocore, and we've got solutions which combine more or less in a style of festival box, and we can combine also SDI signals. So we're going a bit step forward to the older composite video.
Yeah.
So SDI is possible. That would be my answer. You should rebrand as redundant core. We could. Optocore sounds good, I would say. And rebranding costs a lot of money.
What else have we got?
Okay. Chris, Festival Box and other Optocore boxes like DD4MR, do these have HMI connector options, or will you need LC to HMI cables like the Optocon bulkhead panels? This is probably a question for me. The answer is all of our devices are 1 rack unit, and within 1 rack unit device, putting HMI connector, this would take a lot of space. And usually when you look at devices, you can see some devices here in my background. Usually they're all full with some connectivity. So putting extra connector wouldn't be a good idea. Another thing is that not everybody wants to use HMA, and there are a lot of people who are using optical con or some other connectors in broadcast, LIMO, for example. And we want to be compatible with everybody. So LC is the most flexible connector we can get. The answer to the question would be you have to use Optocon. Okay, good morning from New York. Good morning. What time is it in New York?
5 hours behind me, so it's going to be
early.
11 a.m.
Not so early. Which products from Optocore are compatible with Digico's implementation of the Optocore fiber loop? And do those Optocore devices require special firmware to be compatible with Digico version of the protocol?
Shall I answer that? The very simple answer is all of Optocore's own I/O devices are compatible, or the R, sorry, let me rephrase that. All the R series devices are compatible with the Digico loop without any special firmware. As Maciek just mentioned, the M8 and the M12 can be used now on our network with the corresponding firmware. We also support the ClearCom ProGrid devices natively on our network, but they did that. You can't use the Yamaha devices because that would require a change in firmware. So all of the devices we do support have required work from both manufacturers involved to add support for them. Once that's done, that support stays and it works forever. So could we do the Yamaha devices? We could, but that would involve us and Yamaha having a nice conversation and a cup of tea.
Well, actually, I think there is a way to program our boxes to go with Y3R, which is our sane device. But this, we would pretend to be X6R. This gets a bit tricky. Yeah. This could be done. Ideally, you can send me email and then we can see what can be done. Okay, Marcy. Hi guys, missed the in-person meetings. Same as us.
Yeah.
We're meeting in a way in person. At least we can see each other. Does the M12 behave in Digico environment as a rack? Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've used a DD4MR in the Digico system, the M12 behaves exactly the same. The only difference being you have within the M12 itself, you have to define which of its inputs are going to the available sockets on the Digico. So with Digico at 48K, it only gives you 128 IO, and at 96K, it gives you 64 IO, same as DD4MR, and you define which of the sockets in the M12 go to those sockets within the M12 software itself.
Also, you will not see M12 as M12. You will see it as DD2, DD/4. I think this is the way it's displayed.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, Chris, will these new boxes you mentioned take up the same amount of channels in the Optocore loop?
Yes.
Pretty much the same question.
Yeah. Yeah, it behaves from our point of view. It's a maximum of 128 channels at 48K and 64 channels at 96K per device.
Yeah, and also probably one of the reasons for that, if we think of implementing the full M12, 512 channels, this is even more that you have than you have in the loop.
Yeah.
So this could be quite tricky.
Yep.
What else is there? Currently using 2 orange boxes to record 128 channels in this 6K. Any better Optocore product? I would say it's equal to Orange Box.
Yeah,
Orange Box, if you need more flexibility, then you would probably go Orange Box, because then you can change the boards, DMI cards. DMI,
yeah.
DMI, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The Orange Box as an Optocore manual device is effectively the same as the DD4 was. Obviously, the M8 and the M12 have more MADI connections to give you greater connectivity, but what the end result would be the same.
Well, it also depends how you use it in your environment. It might be that you need a couple of channels of each MADI ports, then M series brings you more flexibility, because then you can use 8 channels from port 1, 8 channels from port 2, from port 3, and so on. So you can have more of those connectivities with less channels.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam. Festival box question. Are the SFPs all separate and independent? Yes. And can they be configured to act as part of the same VLAN network, or is it still a switch management thing? So you've got 12 SFPs on Festival Box. Each SFP is completely independent because it runs on completely separate wavelength. And when you use Ethernet terminology, Festival Box is layer 1 solution. So if you do VLANs, it will run VLANs, but we cannot program anything here because it's pure cabling solution. I hope this answers the question. Now a question to Dave. Hi, Dave. Is the DMI Optocard can be fit in console and works like an Optocore devices?
I get that. Hi, Laurent. The answer to that is no. The DMI Optocore card can only be controlled from a Digico engine. The Optocore control software doesn't really know what it is. It's looking for one of our engines. So unfortunately, the answer to that is no.
The last one so far, the M12 can handle up to 512 channels. Is there actually a Digico console that can handle that amount of channels, or would one always need multiple consoles if the full channel count is needed?
Well, that depends how you read the question, doesn't it?
Yes.
There are consoles that can take that many inputs in terms of physical I/O, but there isn't a console that has that many processing channels within it. So the biggest channel count console we make is currently the Quantum 7, and that's 256 inputs. So if you wanted to mix 512 channels, you would require 2 quantum 7s. If you would like 2 quantum 7s, please call our sales guys. They'll be very happy.
We still have this limitation for M12 of DD2, DD4, so 128 IO at 48K and 64 IO at 96K.
Yeah.
However, times are changing, bandwidths are changing, channel accounts are changing. So let's see what future will bring.
Absolutely, everything evolves. And I say, as I said at the start, when we were first starting out with D5, most people were still mixing 56 channels. And so went out to tours that take 1,000 channels, or installations that do 1,000 channels. So, you know, the channel count is growing and growing and growing, and we have to adapt to be able to cope with that.
Yeah. So, guys, I think we are just getting to the end. And
no more questions. Now it's time. Oh.
Oh, I see that. Matt,
please don't make it so we have to mix 512 channels.
Oh, Matt, but I know you like a challenge.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's not so complicated.
How many channels did they mix at London Olympics?
Well, most of the time 2, but we had a lot of sources because everything was redundant. We had a lot of playback sources. We didn't have that many live sources until we did the I guess the opening ceremony was less complicated than the closing ceremony. The opening ceremony was more just playback from VT, whereas with the closing ceremony we did all the live bands, or live bands if you want. But there was a lot of live vocal track, a lot of different tracks. So I think we did fill the SD7s if I remember it correctly. There was nothing left. So yeah, probably in the region of 150, 160 inputs, and then bus outputs on top of that.
Yeah, if you remember this slide with Optocore network on its own, it can do 1024 inputs, unlimited number of outputs, and in London it wasn't enough, or it was almost to the top of that.
When in London, there were 2 optical networks. There was 3 optical networks if you take into account the Digico side of it as well. There was an optical network doing the input side to the consoles. There was a Digico network doing the input side to the consoles, and there were optical networks collecting the outputs from the consoles and distributing that to the speakers around the roof and on the floor. So no one network was big enough to take all of the channels we were using.
Yeah, but the connecting the loops is in the smart way. It's
absolutely, yeah.
Always was.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, one more question. Let's put it that this is the last question, okay? And okay. All other questions later. You can drop me an email always, and I will forward everything today.
Thanks.
From M12, we can patch each channel that we want to Digico maximum 64 IO like a MADI router. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so 64 IO at 96K and 128 at 48K.
Or if you want standalone MADI router, then you just use the same M12, and you can patch any channel anywhere between those MADI ports.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to mention also these 2 guys. So Maciek and Dave are always happy to help you in any kind of questions regarding the technical things and connections and networking. If you like to have any question regarding also some installation maybe, or drawing, or designing, we are always happy to help, always. So feel free to contact us to get any knowledge, because we are giving it away for free. The technology is so advanced and so complex that we are not afraid of any leakings that someone else will do, because the possibilities which you could hear today are not available anywhere else, because no one can do in the redundant way and in this kind of with this kind of stability. This is what we are doing now with Digico. So if you have any questions, just give us a call, write us an email. Also, it will worth to check both YouTube channels of Digico also and of our. We, because you mentioned, guys, quite a lot of times the Coldplay tour. We have a quite nice film from that, so just check it out, because some details are, the guys which are working on the tour are telling about it. And I would like to say hi also to all the technicians, all the sound engineers, and hope to meet you soon at any kind of trade show, festival, concert, etc.
Anything.
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 We miss it. And I will think for that, for sure, because
the last final topic that Krzysztof brought to the Q&A is the beer time. So we prepared ourselves.
And for me,
I've gone Russian.
Oh, guys, really, anywhere.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
David, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
All guys, thanks for your time. I hope you find it interesting.
Enjoy your drinks and have a great day, have a great evening, have a great night.
Hopefully see you all soon.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.